Don't cross the stream.
Anybody else want to negotiate?
Do not make a sound until I tell you to run.
Are you trying to make me look stupid in front of the other guests?
Don't need any help from me, sir.
That's right.
Hello and welcome to Is It Streaming, the podcast where we pick a movie from the endless queue to help you decide if it's a hidden gem, a waste of time, or worth adding to your watch list. I'm John Mostich and I get to be your host today, and I'm joined by my incredible co-hosts, Silvia Graziano and Kevin Rossi.
Hello, John and Silvia. How are you
Hey.
both?
Today we're discussing the 2004 action comedy film Kung Fu Hustle, directed by and starring Stephen Chow, alongside him, Quen Cho, Yuan Hua, as well as Lam Chi Chung, and the amazing antagonist of Danny Chan Kwok Kwan. Please forgive any mispronunciations I had there. I'm doing my best. This movie was incredibly well received in China. It won the Best Picture and Best Director at the Hong Kong Film Awards. It also was in the Golden Globes here in the United States and was nominated for Best Foreign Language Film. And it was an international breakout film for Stephen Chow. So where is it streaming? As of the time of this recording, you can watch this on Hulu. Now, Silvia, why don't you give me your first impressions of what you first thought of Kung Fu Hustle?
Oh man. Okay. Well, so this was a rewatch for me, but it's funny. I don't remember a lot about the film. I remember seeing it probably when it first came out and really enjoying it. Love the sort of unique blend of kung fu and like comedy and definitely the Looney Tunes action. But I think my favorite part now, I really love the homages like to kung fu films and as well as like some American films. They're pretty fun to see those references.
Awesome. And Kevin, when did you first see it?
I think I saw it when it first came out on DVD. I probably watched that at my friend Chris's house. I did not remember anything about this movie other than that it was about Kung Fu. I don't remember what my initial thoughts were because obviously I don't remember. But I'll tell you what, I kind of had a 180 experience with this film. First watch, I was not a huge fan. But then I watched some behind the scenes stuff and got a little bit more of the references of the films that they were speaking to that I had no clue about. And I really enjoyed this.
My first watch of this movie actually was not when it first came out. It was only a few years ago, and I was donating plasma. And if you know anything about donating plasma, they strap you in a chair and you're not allowed to move. I almost jumped out of my chair about 20 times, so much that the nurses told me I had to turn the movie off because it's so much action in this movie and surprises. So that was my first watch, and this was a rewatch. And Kevin, I will say, I also appreciated learning so much more about the history of this film.
This film currently has a rating of 7.7, and the IMDb logline is: a wannabe gangster becomes involved with a turf war with a notorious gang, while real kung fu masters fight to protect their neighborhood.
So, about right.
Yeah, I'd agree.
Yeah, that feels pretty accurate.
Silvia, as usual, you do such a great job setting the stage. Why don't you set the stage for us?
Fade in. The film opens in 1940 Shanghai, inside a dim police station. The symbol of law has collapsed into fear and corruption. Officers cower behind desks as the crocodile gang terrorizes the police for arresting the boss's girlfriend. For a moment, they seem unstoppable. Their leader swaggerly asserts his authority. The police surrender instantly. Order dissolves. In this world, uniforms mean nothing. Only reputation and violence command respect. The crocodile gang appears to rule over all, but as soon as they step outside, something changes. A distant rhythm echoes down the road, slow, measured, unmistakable. From the far end of the street, the Axe Gang emerges. They march in perfect formation, dressed in identical black suits and hats, axes glint under the streetlights. Their steps are synchronized, deliberate, and theatrical. Part military parade, part gangster spectacle. The camera lingers on their unity and confidence, transforming their arrival into a performance. The Crocodile Gang members are surrounded. With only a few words, the Axe Gang announces their dominance. The Crocodile Gang bravado collapses instantly. Resistance is useless. The Axe Gang overwhelms them in seconds. The fight is brutal, swift, and absurdly stylish. What looked like a powerful criminal organization is exposed as nothing more than a local nuisance. Their authority disintegrates before our eyes. The message is clear. In this world, power is fragile. Status is temporary, and someone stronger is always waiting in the shadows. Through this sudden reversal, director Stephen Chow establishes the film's signature tone, a blend of parody, dark comedy, and martial arts spectacle. Violence is real, but it is staged like a joke. Authority is present, but only as an illusion. The police are powerless. Minor gangsters are disposable. Only the Axe Gang truly rules. This power reset prepares the audience for the world of Kung Fu Hustle, a place where appearances are constantly shattered and confidence is always temporary. Beyond the city center, however, not every corner of Shanghai lives under the Axe Gang's shadow. Only the poorest slums and forgotten villages remain outside their reach. Among them is Pigsty Alley, a rundown neighborhood where daily life stubbornly persists, hidden from the rest of the city. It is here that two small-time hustlers, Sing and Bone, arrive, pretending to be members of the Axe Gang in hopes of extorting the residents. They believe they can borrow power the way others wear suits and carry axes. And just like the Crocodile Gang before them, they are about to learn that in this world, false authority never survives for long.
What did you guys think of our opening?
I thought it was good. It was a very cool techno crane shot. It's one of those things I think I've talked about in many of our episodes where it does a wide shot, it does a medium shot, and it does a close-up. And it's so cool how that type of style of filmmaking has transcended from where this is set place, from the 1940s when they couldn't move the camera 10 times to shoot a scene. You know, they had to make all the shots happen with very few shots. It was very cool.
Yeah, and you can already get a sense of the style and the tone of what this film is going to be, like right in the very first scene.
Yeah, I love the police are obviously being strong-armed by the bad guys, which is just right literally in the police station, which is right away. Stephen Chow does a brilliant job of just telling you who's good, who's bad, and then soon we're going to maybe have it flipped on its head in the first 5 minutes of this film.
Was this in a different hue and a different color? Now I'm trying to remember how it opens. Is it, for some reason I'm remembering it as like in a sepia tone or something, but maybe that's just my own brain.
They definitely are in the police station. There's a lot of browns in there, and it's very much like an interior. And when they go outside, it goes much more to the neons and the more colorful feel.
Okay.
So these very awful bad guys who are strong-arming the police, who are clearly badass mother truckers, walk out into the streets, and then they start to hear something. Down the street comes a group of men in top hats, all carrying axes. When you see the ferocity of these bad guys that just beat up the police, and then you see the fear that they have, it just speaks volumes.
Yeah, I love the 180 that they do on this, where you think the initial villain, who has a great set of teeth, by the way, fantastic teeth. And, yeah, but they do this whole 180 where they set up this villain. He's a complete jerk. And then they go outside and you get almost this Gangs of New York-esque wide shot of the street. And then so many gangsters wearing these tall top hats and carrying axes. It was so stylized, and I think it came across really well on screen.
Yeah, it was super, super cool. I love how it fakes you out there thinking like, oh man, there's a hierarchy here of evil, of villains, you know? One of the references that I think that this film actually does make, you know, is really Gangs of New York for sure.
Yeah, this film is also just riddled with movies that you've seen throughout your life. There's different scenes that are plucked out of everything. It's not just ancient Chinese theater, but it's all sorts of things that we've watched in our time that you can just go, oh, I know that scene from this.
And one of the things that was very interesting in my viewing experiences of this, for the fact that Stephen Chow references so many English language films, but then also, come to find out, is referencing like a pantheon of Chinese films, which I had no clue about, but it just speaks to the the film knowledge of someone like Stephen Chow. And I think it probably speaks more to saturation of English media, where I think in this time of streaming, hopefully Chinese films and foreign films come more into the mainstream, which I think we've been seeing in the last few years. But yeah, it's great that he ties so many different genres and films together.
Yeah, I love that he was also brave enough to not worry about people going like, "Oh, you're stealing this, you're stealing that." Every film is its own thing, and really, we're all stealing everything from each other. So, he just does it so masterfully. It's very much like Hamilton, right? When you go hear Hamilton, you hear the different rap artists that he's imitating throughout the whole thing. It doesn't take away from the beauty of the musical.
Yeah, if anything, I think it speaks to the mastery of your craft, right? Where you can take an influence and then put a new spin on it without being shy about doing it and doing it in a new way that makes the original new, but then also makes a new form of art.
Because it doesn't take itself too seriously. And I think that is what kind of lends to the fact that you can take all these references and it doesn't feel at all like you're stealing or anything, because this film is just such a mishmash. The references that are made in this film are all over the place, It's like from superhero films to like gangster films to just random other like sci-fi films. It's all over the place. It's great.
It's more an homage than it is really stealing, right?
Yeah, exactly. It is definitely an homage. This is a love letter. Yes.
And I'm curious, I haven't seen Shaolin Soccer or any of other Stephen Chow films, and I'm curious if they have the same tone as this one.
His style is, I think he called it like crazy chaos style.
I love that.
So yeah, he has a love for I don't want to call it absurd, because he still is very much, he's not a Baron von Munchausen kind of feel. He's
no,
much
definitely
more
not.
Still based in reality, but he does get close sometimes to that. And later on, there's actually a scene he almost copies it identically. So the Axe Gang has shown up, and I really just want to talk about this next scene for two reasons. Do you guys know what the two reasons are for the Axe Gang coming in and just completely decimating these smaller bad guys? What are the two things that are the most memorable about that scene?
I would say the two things are, first, like as we were talking about, where it's flipping the original villain on its head, where you think, oh, this guy's bossing around the police. This guy's going to be the main villain. And then come to find out this guy is just the small fish in the pond. There is a gigantic hierarchy, as Silvia said, of many more bad guys in this film. And that was the main thing I loved. And then I think at the very end of this film, at the very end of the scene is where the woman, who I believe is the sister of the main bad guy, correct?
He calls her sister.
Yes, I wasn't sure if there was actual relation there, but
it may be a translation. I'm not sure. He calls her sister.
Yeah, and she says something to the effect of like, "Oh, please, brother, like just don't kill me, let me go." And he was like, "Oh, like of course I wouldn't kill you. You're my sister. You're a woman." And then he's like, "You can go." And then she turns around to flee, and then he shotguns her in the back.
Oh my God, it's so cartoonish.
Yeah, it's very Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon, very much with the wires, where she just launches across the whole street and comes down. So those are two things. I actually have more. Sylvia, do you have anything else that was super memorable about that scene to you?
I love the whole dancing element, the comedic element of the violence is it's done like a musical, and there's a dance sequence along with it. And the use of the axe, how they actually axe the guy's leg, I believe, is quite comedic. There's no, do we see blood? I actually can't remember now.
No blood.
We don't see blood. So it has this sort of cartoon feel. You're like, is this even real?
Yeah, we definitely going to talk about the hustle that's going to happen there, but I love that axe shot with all of my heart and soul. So you see it kind of coming on a horizontal plane, and then you see him from above, and the axe just goes by him. And at first you're like, oh, did it miss him? And then they show him just crumble to the ground, and it has chopped off his leg. And it's just so beautifully done. So that's like one of my favorite shots in cinema, I think. I absolutely love that shot.
Wow. In cinema, John.
In cinema.
I mean, that's a big statement. All right.
I mean, good for you, John. To each his own. But I think in this film, there are many other sequences that I would say are better than this. And some of them are quite astonishing.
Oh, yeah.
How dare you, Kevin Rossi. I can't believe But Sylvia, you also mentioned the hustle or the dance at the end of this after the Axe Gang and the leader of the Axe Gang, who also has incredible teeth, murders these bad guys. They start dancing, and they kind of do an interesting, I don't want to call it's definitely not a hustle, but the music is very big band sounding, and it's very cool to see him
Yeah.
It's very
So-
English of the time, right? Like 1940s, 1950s big band style, like you're saying. Yeah.
It does feel like the big band. Yeah. I mean, it's very, very American influenced, I
yes.
would say, right? You know, even though they're called the Axe Gang and they got like top hats and stuff, it has like very Al Capone kind of feel. If Al Capone was a musical.
So the really interesting, so it is, I mentioned the hustle because it's called Kung Fu Hustle. But is it? I have a clip here from Stephen Chow in an interview. Let's listen in.
In Chinese, is there a translation for the word hustle?
No.
No?
In Chinese, it's just simply called Kung Fu
Ah,
without hustle.
uh-huh. And who added hustle? You?
No. I think it's the people from the film company, and they suggest if we can use Kung Fu hustle for the Western audiences, that would be better. And I believe them.
Did you understand the word hustle?
Yes, they because they explained to me about the meaning of hustle. First is kind of dancing, yeah, and secondly, the hustle had a double meaning, like I cheat you, and that means I hustle you. I don't know. Is it correct? Or
Yes, you've got the idea.
Yeah.
So,
Okay.
they explained it well, and you understand it well.
Okay. Good.
Let's talk about the movie Kung Fu Hustle. The idea of it is somewhat based on your own life, isn't it?
Just some, yeah. Basically, it's not my own experience because it's a story, and we make it up. Yeah, but some of the detail in this story is based on my own experience. Like when the little boy got the book, the Kung Fu Bible, and then he just learned the amazing Kung Fu skill from the book. That's what I did when I was young.
And you grew up in an environment pretty much like what they call in the movie the pigsty, right?
Yeah, the textile.
Is this in the movie a real area, or did you have to build it as a set?
We built it as a set. But the idea is also based on my own experience. I have stayed in this kind of environment when I was young, like a building with a lot of different people stick together. Yeah,
Very close
very close. A lot of neighborhood,
and very crowded.
very crowded.
Did you have electricity?
Yes, but we share. We share one bathroom, different, 10 different units, and we share one bathroom.
Oh, my
I think.
goodness.
Yeah.
So there he is describing Pigsty Alley, which we're going to get to in our next scene.
Just to clarify, he was saying that the original title was just Kung Fu.
In China, it's called Kung Fu, I guess.
Wow. What do they call the American
there
show
are no
Kung Fu
other-
in China?
Yeah.
Hustle. I don't-
It was really smart because, yes, the double meaning of hustle, scheming someone, cheating them. But I keep thinking about the actual song, Do the Hustle.
I mean, it's
like-
so
yeah.
perfect. It's kind of hard to imagine the film not having hustle in it for the fact that it fits so well with the double meaning there. It's pretty wild, It's kind of one of those miracles of cinema, I would say.
Yeah, for once the American advertisers did something right.
Yes.
They were right for once.
We go right from this city street where these bad guys are, and the next place we find ourselves is at Pigsty Alley, which, what were your impressions of Pigsty Alley?
Well, my first impressions were it's definitely a large set piece. I thought the aesthetic of it was very good. I don't know if it's something that I haven't seen in films before, but it felt familiar at least to some Asian films that I've seen. But I think it definitely sets the stage. And one thing it definitely reminded me of was almost of the movie Rear Window, where you have the courtyard and then you have the apartments kind of wrapping around. From that central courtyard, you kind of can just see everything that's happening in this neighborhood in this sequence where they're having the landlady walk around and the guys doing the shower. You get such a feel for the entire location, especially for it being such a big set piece. They did a really good job introing everything in a short period of time.
I mean, they obviously established this is like a low economic kind of area. These families are struggling. Water is only allowed, Mondays, Wednesdays, and Thursdays? I don't even know. It's like 3 days a week where they're allowed to use water. And I think they even say in the film, there's an introduction saying that the only people that are safe are the ones that are so poor. The gangs will not go there because they have no interest, right, in these kind of areas.
What's to get?
Is that correct?
Yeah, absolutely. They say it right at the beginning. What's to get there? What do you want? Water from these people? They don't have anything.
Yeah, there's like nothing to get from these people. They're the safest from the gang sort of like coming in and taking over. Until, obviously, a certain moment happens in this film.
Eventually, the Axe Gang, is it the Double Axe Gang? Oh, the Axe Gang. I think of the Double Axe because eventually we see a tattoo with two axes on it. Eventually, they will show up, but not for any kind of money or monetary benefit. But for revenge, I guess. We also, when we get into Pigsty Alley, and we've seen this horrible little location. Oh, first, before I say that, one of the reasons I think for this one location is this film cost $20 million to make. So they built this one big set, and they worked the hell out of this one big set. So,
yeah, I would say probably 70% of the film takes place, if not more, in this one location.
I imagine that some of the city streets probably took place on actual city streets, but most of the actual action takes place right in Pigsty Alley.
And I'm surprised they got so much done for $20 million. They must not be unionized out there in China because, I mean, some of the special effects in this film, in today's money, it would cost $100 million, like for sure. Like there's so many special effect shots.
I mean, there's a funny interview later that we'll hear, but where they talk about their special effects, and you're absolutely right. Stephen Chow has such a vivid imagination that there's no way to do this without having some special effects come into play. And speaking of Stephen Chow, guess who we meet?
Stephen Chow. I forget his character's name, though. It's eluding me right now.
Sing.
His character's name is Sing. Guess what Stephen Chow's name is in China?
Song.
No, it's Sing. It's Sing. It's still Sing. So,
really?
Yes, his name is Sing in China. So that I find actually a huge part of this movie that we're going to get into is the naming of the characters is so fantastic. But we meet Stephen Chow, and Kevin, you mentioned earlier a previous movie that he worked on. Do you remember what it was?
Shaolin Soccer.
Shaolin Soccer. And the very first thing we meet when he comes on set is a soccer ball, and it's bouncing around as some kids are playing with it. And eventually he stomps on the soccer ball and says, "No more soccer."
Which I didn't understand first watch it all. And then I looked into it and I was like, oh, this is great. Like, what a great setup for. And also, too, I love that shot is that it's a low shot looking at the kids playing soccer. The soccer ball comes over to Stephen Chow's feet. We only see his feet. And he does a little bit of juggling with the ball. And then he stomps on it and says, "No more soccer." It's great.
So sad. Those kids are so sad.
They are very sad.
Think about it, too. They're in Pigsty Alley. That's probably the only thing they had to play with at all.
The only soccer ball, bro.
This guy sings a jerk.
He definitely tries to be a jerk, right? He definitely spends most of the movie trying to be a jerk. So when we come into Pigsty Alley, after he has smashed the soccer ball, we get to learn about some of the tenants. And I love all the names that they give the characters. There's Donut, who think he makes donuts, maybe. There's the landlady, there's the landlord. Everybody's just named what they do. And our first introduction to the landlady is...
When there was trouble, you simply took off while these guys saved our butt. And now you're trying to chase them away. I'm grateful. And you should try to be more appreciative. Of what? Every single one of you owes me back rent. 150, 200, 180. You owe me 95. Now pay up or pack up. Don't worry, guys. I'll pay the bill. Wait, what? Barry? What's it to you where I get my money, you fatso? You little bitch! Who's talking?
Who's acting like you and everybody else? Who do you think you are? Your bitch are footprint of tyrant.
Anyone who thinks they can out-yell me had better think again.
I love the landlady so much.
And also that scream, I mean, come to find out, that will be such an instrumental piece to her character, but is used in such a different fashion in this scene.
Yeah, here she's quieting the crowd. I love that Stephen Chow starts with giving these little breadcrumbs of just regular people just kind of going about doing their jobs, but he gives all these little small hints for you to go, this is not a regular little village. It is something special about this village.
There's something special about this woman, no matter like how you want to call her. She's just like, oh man, she's not treating her tenants very well, but there is something unique about her.
We skipped ahead with the landlady a little bit, but so Singh comes into town and he's there to kind of cause trouble because Singh, for whatever reason in his head, we kind of learn a little bit more later, wants to be a bad guy. He wants to be tough and he wants people to be afraid of him and intimidate others. I think he's seen all these bad guys and all the things they get and thinks like, this is what you do to get what you want.
And also, too, I think with the backstory that they tell, I think it's just because he's been bullied so much, right? And he sees that the gang is the main force in this town and they're, obviously more influential than the police. So like, as you were saying, in order to get what he wants, being a bad guy seems like the most sure way to get it.
Yeah, I think it's a lot of it is getting some respect. Like he probably feels like a nobody. He's been bullied. People think he has no talent, right? Or any strength. So he's got to get in. He's got to feel macho. It's that whole thing about feeling macho and egotistical violence. Right?
Yes, and I feel like it's such a funny character that he's created for himself. It's almost as if you have Steve Martin trying to be a villain because he's just so goofy and he's trying to pull this off and the whole thing's a hustle, and he's just so far removed from being a bad guy, but he's trying really hard.
Really, yeah.
and he has this kind of a doofus friend there that kind of goes along with all of what he wants to go along with, and they go to get a haircut. I think really the main reason they wanted to get a haircut was just to bully the barber around.
You don't think he needed a haircut?
I mean,
remember they make him look too
yes,
nice.
Exactly. He must have needed a haircut.
Yeah, maybe he needed a haircut. I don't know. Maybe he needed a haircut and wanted to get it for free because he asked for it for free because on the chest of his friend were 2 giant axes, and he exclaimed to them that they were the leaders of the Axe Gang, which should strike terror in the hearts of everybody, right?
Allegedly. Not this barber, though.
Not the barber. The barber could give 2 rats' ass. He wants this money.
The barber's reaction is phenomenal.
And is it the barber whose pants are always half down?
Yes.
Yeah, which is fantastic because you can spot him from a mile away in every scene.
Yeah, there's so many scenes further in this movie where like you can just see his ass is just half showing. You're like, oh, that's that guy, even when he's not towards camera. It's great.
What's the bar? Yeah, it's a barber. Yeah. There it is.
He might not even be in the scene. He's just there, but he grabs your attention. A brilliant choice by Stephen. So yeah, they try to get out of paying for this haircut. And eventually, the barber calls the town.
He feels like he's being swindled, so he calls back up.
Yeah.
So he calls back up and saying he quickly finds out that he's outmatched by every single person in town.
That is such a great scene, and I would have loved to see him and the other writer coming up with this, where he, is trying to be the big man on campus here, and he's challenging everyone. He's challenging someone who he thinks is short, and then the guy stands up and he's 3 feet taller than everybody else. So he's challenging an old woman. She I forget what she does. Maybe she crushes something in her hand. And then he's picking on a kid and the kid gets through the crowd and he's enormously jacked. And then he's like, none of you guys can fight. Oh, I knew I shouldn't have challenged you guys. You guys are terrible.
And you know what's great is that most of the CGI looks ridiculous. It's purposely looking so crazy. I think one of the people that he points to try to fight, I think is either an older man or an older woman. But once he is in front of the crowd, you see that it's this older face, but the body's all jacked up and young. And so it's the weirdest CGI, and you're just like, I'm here for it.
Yeah, it's very much Saturday morning cartoons by this time for sure.
Yeah.
Yep. So he immediately feels threatened by everybody, and so he decides to call for help. he grabs, and the Axe Gang are known for shooting fireworks off to call for help for whatever reason. And so he pulls a firecracker out of his pocket, flings it over a wall. The next thing you know, one of the Axe Gang has had his hat exploded on the other side of the fence. This moment, I think, is like one of the first times that I realized we're kind of living in a Looney Tune world.
Yeah, because I mean, when the guy
yeah.
walks around the corner, he has like a fedora on, half of it's blown off. There's still smoke coming up from the top of his head. It's very Looney Tunes-esque.
Everything up until then, like stomping the ball, it was a little over the top. The axe through the leg, a little over the top. But this one was like, okay, we're in for a kind of a silly ride. It gets even more pronounced later, but
Yeah, I feel like up until this point, it's more of a Edgar Wright type of humor as opposed to be Looney Tunes. But I think this is definitely where it becomes apparent.
so he's exploded his friend's hat. And really, at this point, I'm going to say, folks, that one of the first things that when Kevin and Silvia and I were talking about this movie was, I'm not sure how we can make a podcast out of it because there's so many visual gags here. You can't even explain it all with all the different languages that or the Chinese that's happening and all the different special effects that are going on. Silvia, can you tell me, like, what's your overall impression of when the Axe Gang comes in and the chaos begins with the three townspeople?
I love this kind of showdown. Not even a showdown, right? Because you don't even know what hit the leader of the Axe Gang. But when he appears from behind the wall or the fence and he's wiping his face, he's all sweaty. But yeah, he's got this like firework in his hat. He is just like, yeah, who did this? And everyone's staying silent, you know? The barber tries to challenge him, and then quickly it's one of the three masters in the community that actually like wipes him out like immediately, like throws him into a barrel or something like that. His like back is broken or something crazy.
Yeah, and I think this is really where it kicks into gear, being a strictly kung fu movie where you have now established that there are people that are very good, almost superhero-esque heroes. And some of them live in this town. So you have these three warriors that they set up. I believe one of them is the baker, one of them...
The coolie, the baker, and the tailor.
Yeah.
And they all have like very distinct personalities, but they're like hiding in plain sight. The thing about Pigsty Alley too, which I find really fascinating because of how this plays out. You know, it shows this like poor community, right? But they are still a community. They care about one another and they hide the heroes. I love that they just like magically show up in this moment to defend the community. It's quite beautiful. Very poetic.
Yeah, and I think it also, all of a sudden, you've got this Axe Gang who's so much better than that other wimpy gang. And they come in, and all of a sudden, they're getting the crap kicked out of them by these three nomads that are just like random people. I think it's like the second major time in the movie that everything you know, you no longer know, right?
Yeah.
They're not as tough as these three guys, which is who Stephen Chow wants to be. And also, you just mentioned, like, all these people that live in this little community and how caring they are and so forth. Stephen Chow obviously holds from his own childhood the love he had for that kind of a life. Like, it was so simple, and they shared electricity and they shared bathroom. And I'm sure they were heroes that were born in that Pigsty Alley that he grew up in, that he wanted to show through these actually very famous actors that played these three. So I just love that. Kind of like the Jesus story, right?
You got the Trinity that's like literally hiding in plain sight. I mean, it's his history, it's his background, you know, growing up in an area like that. They're sharing a lot of the utilities. But then, I mean, who knows? Did he have a landlord and a landlady like the characters we see in this film? Who knows? I mean,
probably a bit. And then we fall back again to meet Singh again. And Singh is who's caused all this trouble in the first place, right?
Yeah.
He just like threw a firecracker, wanted to come in and be a badass, threw a firecracker, brought all this bad attention to this neighborhood that never wanted the attention. All of a sudden, a war is breaking out because of Singh, and still Singh wants to emulate or be just a bad guy.
Even after the main bad guys just got their asses kicked in this scene, he's still choosing the way of the Axe Gang.
yeah, he still thinks he can get more respect that way than being, I don't know, a good person.
So he figures out, like, if I do something really bad, or if I hurt somebody really bad, then I can be admired or being revered in some way. So he decides he's going to basically kill a person, which is
just somebody, anybody. It doesn't matter.
It didn't matter, but he wanted to kill the landlady, which is also one of my favorite scenes in cinematic history as well. The knife throwing scene. Silvia, what did you think of that scene?
Oh, it's great. This is where we know we've now entered another realm of like comedy. It reminds me of when the landlord is dropped out of the window. It's like the dirt of the pot of this flour lands on him. Isn't that a very Looney Tunes kind of imagery?
Pot hits him on the head.
Totally.
The pot cracks, but the flour and the dirt stays on his head.
Exactly. So perfectly. I was like, that is definitely very much cartoonish Looney Tunes feeling. So you're already starting to get this taste of like, oh, here's some interesting references, you know?
I think the beautiful part of the pot scene is that you don't really see that coming. They're having a fight. They're having a disagreement. The next thing you know, he's getting flung out of the window, and everything in your brain says, oh my God, she just killed this guy.
Yeah.
And you're not yet ready to think it's a Looney Tunes movie. Then the pot hits, the flour and everything. And then his arm just kind of waves like, I'm fine. And you're like, oh my God, there's no way this guy's fine.
And then just to tack it up one more notch is after he throws the knives and they comedically bounce back, and then he gives it to his friend to throw the final one, and then he stabs him in the arm by accident, and then throws the knife handle at the landlady. And then this Roadrunner coyote chase scene happens, which ends with the landlady smashing cartoon style into a billboard on the side of the road. It's really quite a stylized scene.
That's not even like, oh, you're saying it's that style. No, he said he copied Roadrunner. That's exactly what he copied.
It's clearly an homage to Roadrunner. I mean,
oh yeah.
Yeah.
For sure.
From this point forward, we really don't hold any form of reality in too much stead. It's just everything's going to be whatever ride he wants to take us on, because if you can Roadrunner run down the road, then nothing matters. So,
and the other thing that I like about this too is that you go from this scene where you're seeing the Roadrunner coyote style stuff, but then it's kind of a turn in the movie where now you come into scenes where it kind of gets a little bit more serious, and we start seeing more of the action scenes of this film.
We are very glad that you have come. We need some professional advice.
We know what your problems are. One is from the Hung School. They call him the Iron Fist. Those people on Pigsty Alley are really good.
The other two are specialists of the 12 kicks and hexagon staff, but their warrior days are long over.
Yet kung fu masters of their level never cease to be a threat. Which makes this job that you have asked us to perform for you a great challenge for us.
What more can we ask?
I told you, these guys are number one. Expensive, but totally reliable. They are worth every penny they charge.
No, the beast is number one. The evil spirit of the fire cloud. He is the world's greatest killer.
He was so dedicated to practicing kung fu that he lost his mind. I have heard that he is held in an asylum for the criminally insane.
Which makes you the top killers in circulation, right?
In actuality, we are nothing more than a pair of street musicians.
Whose tunes will take hold of your soul and then slowly break your heart.
Great! Oh, that's like poetry. Don't you agree?
I love the boss's hype man here. He's like, you guys got this, right? You got the other guy's incarcerated, right? So that makes you guys number one, right?
So you guys will have to do, right? You're the next in line.
So enjoyable to see the boss be so giddy that he's about to murder these townspeople. You know, he wants to do another dance. He wants to do another hustle. But it's also really cool foreshadowing. It's not even foreshadowing, it's exposition, where they're like, yeah, we're not number one. There's somebody badder than us, which you're like, okay, we definitely are going to meet that guy, the beast, right?
Yeah, and I like how this scene is really the first time you see behind the scenes of the inner workings of the Axe Gang, and you realize, like, these guys are kind of just a bunch of buffoons when it comes down to it. I mean, they obviously have strength in numbers, but, I mean, the masterminds of this gang are not too sharp.
It's definitely a facade, you know?
The other very cool thing is these are, again, two master Chinese actors or kung fu actors, martial artists that have been doing this for years. So I'm sure if you're an audience in China, you immediately recognize these actors. So it's a very different viewing experience for us as Americans, I think, because, you know, obviously I don't have any reference to who these people might be.
I almost feel like this would be the equivalent of you seeing, like, Jet Li and Jackie Chan sitting in the sofa, right? And all American audiences would understand, like, oh, these guys are badass. This is going to be cool.
Yeah. Or watching Ocean's 11 and going, I don't know who any of these guys are. You know who every one of those guys are.
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
So these guys have to go into the town, and they have a fight with the amazing donut shop guy and the tailor and the dually, and it comes to a head as, man, it's so hard describing like just the visual. I don't want to go into so much detail about the fight.
This scene, I want to say, is pretty much the masterpiece of this film. I feel like the two sequences here, I mean, it's an extended sequence, but it starts off with a scene where the musicians show up and we see them set up their instruments. I mean, maybe they're banjos, but he's playing them. He kind of sits down on his own legs, almost as if he's sitting in an invisible chair, and he has a long banjo that's got multiple strings on it. And then we cut to a shot that's a profile tracking shot of, I forget, Baker, Dooley, Taylor, one of them, walking along. And it's a fantastic shot where you see his shadow up against the wall, and there's a little roof there. And unbeknownst to him, they're throwing these invisible swords or daggers at him. And you see it cutting a power line. You see a cat that's jumping off the roof, and the shadow has his head cut off. It is a fantastic scene. The choreography, the storyboarding of this scene is really magical. I feel like it's pinnacle of this film, and it only leads into an even bigger scene where the other two warriors show up to face head on with our musicians.
So you're alluding to our newfound heroes flipping us upside down, where we have this landlord and this landlady who suddenly become superpower people. And it, again, flips our point of view, because they've just been avoiding every little bit of conflict, and they just really have been asking for money, and that's about it, or flirting with the girls. And suddenly when all is lost, because these musicians have pretty much defeated the three other masters, they come out and just completely annihilate the musicians with the lion's roar.
Which was alluded to a little bit when she was shouting down the tenants of the alley when they were complaining about water, and she was throwing back the fact that most of them are late on their rent, and then she screams and everyone goes silent. But obviously, in this scene that we're talking about, it is the lion's roar, and it's pretty much a superpower. And we then come to find out that it's actually a legendary superpower, and the landlady and the landlord are very well known in China.
They are masters. The two of them have been masters all along and have been living this life of landlord and landlady, just collecting rent and screaming at their tenants.
So let's talk about the landlady a little bit. Did you guys do any deep dive on her?
Very well-known kung fu stuntswoman, right? She hasn't been in a lot of films, but apparently her name is very, very recognized. Her face is a very recognizable face.
She was also in a James Bond movie as a little girl who beat the crap out of James Bond with other schoolgirls.
Which James Bond?
Really?
I want to say Golden. I'm not sure. Let me see.
Really? Okay.
I'll have to look it up real quick.
So we're talking Pierce Brosnan, 007?
No.
Gotta be Connery or Roger Moore.
She must be
late 40s.
So it was in Moonraker where she and her counterpart beat up a whole group of people. But the kind of cool thing to me is Stephen Chow, when he was casting people for the movie, she had come in to hang out with another friend of hers that she was bringing in to audition for the movie. And she was just sitting in the hallway smoking a cigarette. And he stopped everything and said, I want her to play the landlord. She wasn't even going for an audition.
And what a great job she did.
She was perfect.
Yeah, she did absolutely fantastic in that role. I mean, from beginning to end.
And I feel like the chemistry between her and her husband, the landlord, is great. I mean, they're so comedic, but then also when they kick it into high action gear, they are very believable.
Yeah, they collaborate very, very well.
Yeah, they seem like a married couple that would be fighting all the time, and yet also deeply in love at the same time.
I know that even their dynamic, their characters are representative of very famous characters that were in some really well-known films from the past. I want to watch them now just to kind of see where those references come from.
Going to have to go on a whole bunch of deep dives on a lot of...
Yeah, there's so many films that the Kung Fu Hustle references.
I think one thing I love about this film, though, is that you don't need to know those references. It really benefits you. I mean, you really kind of get a lot of the little winks to different things, but they're referencing things that were great in movies that you haven't seen. So they're still great in this movie. So they're still very enjoyable to me. I did not need to know all the history. That just adds just another layer that's fantastic to me. But what also this does is it gives us a chance to have the Axe Gang, plot-wise, beaten once again. They're just getting their ass handed to them every time they go into this little pigsty alley. And so they need to get bigger and badder and stronger. And who can we count on to get somebody bigger, badder, and stronger but the guy who really, really wants to be bad, Mr. Singh?
That's right.
So they recruit him, bring him in, say, hey, we need you to break our Mr. Beast. Is it Mr. Beast or The Beast? It's The Beast. Out of some asylum somewhere and bring him to us, which sounds kind of scary. And you got to admit, Singh's pretty, is he brave or is he stupid for doing this? I don't know.
I think he's just desperate, honestly. He's also a character that was willing to just kill anybody. He didn't care who in order to get into this game.
Yeah, he's such a deplorable guy, really, to start with. Kill, maim, and then finally he's like, oh, the Axe Gang actually wants me. It's his first time feeling wanted, I guess, too, because they really want him to maybe die, right?
And that's the thing. And he doesn't really quite see that. He still thinks he really has this like fighting chance. And so he's got to prove himself. So he has this one talent so he can break out of any kind of tough situation.
So we have a clip of him as the Axe Gang has asked him to go and break into this facility and get out the beast, and they're outside creeping up to the facility.
Research Center for Abnormal Development. What's that?
I'm not out for crazy.
What is the Army doing there? Those are not soldiers, they're Boy Scouts. With tanks?
Forget it, they're just models.
Now, when those scouts change the guard, 5 minutes is all you will have. You must follow the arrows to the last cell. When you find it, force the door and get the man in there out. Here's your toolkit. 5 minutes. Now go. And what about you? Oh, we will be your lookouts, of course. Oh.
I love the music in that scene. Whenever I hear that music, it makes me think of one very famous movie. Do you guys know what I'm thinking of?
Absolutely.
Pee-wee's Big Adventure.
I don't know if that's the origin of this song being in cinema, but oh my God, I cannot not think of that film when hearing that.
I know, I'm not sure if it is, but that is very famous. That's the connection I make all the time.
And it just adds such a layer of like absurdity to what is happening to this. I mean, this film is so layered and it's so genius the way that they do it, especially with, just doing subtle things like that, where it's adding in a tone that some people might not even know, but if you do know it, it adds a lot of character.
Yeah,
you can't watch that scene and really take it too seriously, too. But I love he's like, they're just Boy Scouts. They're soldiers. If you're watching the film, they're soldiers with actual tanks. And he's like, no, they're just Boy Scouts. So they're freaking manipulating the crap out of Singh. And Singh's falling for it because he's so desperate.
Yeah.
The great news for Singh is he actually succeeds. How did he succeed?
So come to find out, Singh is a master lockpicker, as we've seen in a previous scene where he is hanging and they're about to shoot him, and he miraculously picks his locks. And then they're like, how did you get out of there? And he's like, oh, I'm a master lockpicker. And they're like, all right, well, then we're going to shoot your friend on the count of 3. And then they start at 3. And miraculously, he does get him out of that also. They're like, oh, you should bust out this main guy, the big bad villain. And he somehow meanders his way through this asylum with this map and following the stuff and, stumbles upon the cell that he's in and picks the lock and completes his mission.
I love Mr. Beast so much. He also is another master of Kung Fu, very well known. I think he was Bruce Lee's body double way back when, which I definitely know that Singh had such a passion for Bruce Lee. Bruce Lee really kind of shaped a lot of his vision for his future, and it's why he started taking Kung Fu in the very first place was because of Bruce Lee, and I'm sure having Bruce Lee's body double and stunt double on set was probably a huge thrill for him. I can only imagine.
You're meeting some of your heroes, so it's kind of cool.
It's like Paul Thomas Anderson having Scorsese visit his sets early on, which happened.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it's a big
that
deal.
level of surreal.
I think, again, we go to Mr. Beast, who does not look like a badass motherfucker. He looks like shit, right?
He looks like
Yeah.
an old man in sandals.
Yeah, it's hilarious. It looks like he literally is like almost kind of malnourished, right? Doesn't have like muscles. He's just like, I've just been sitting here doing nothing.
Which actually fits in very well with most of our other heroes in this story, especially the landlord and
Yeah.
landlady. I wouldn't say past their prime, but most of these warriors and heroes have assimilated into commoner life.
Yeah.
I know too when he was auditioning, or when he came in, because I think he knew he was going to give him the role, that he came in with a wig and looked very debonair and put together. And Stephen asked him to take off his wig, and he said, "That's what I want. I want you to look disheveled and your hair kind of everywhere, and like you've been in an insane asylum for the last 20 years just because you don't have anything better to do," which I think is a brilliant choice. And his flip-flop is one of my favorite parts of that too, where he kind of hangs it off the side of his foot. And when they introduce him to the actual leader of the Axe Gang, he's like, "Are you sure this is the right guy?"
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they're totally like, I don't know if you got the right guy.
So they go to test to see if he's the right guy. Here's just a little taste of the introduction of the Beast to the leader of the Axe Gang.
Are you sure you brought the right one? Oh, yes, boss, I am certain. I swear I followed your orders to the letter.
Mr. Beast, please show us a sample of your technique.
My career is on the line.
What do I care?
Okay, old man. You see this? Have you ever gone up against a fist this big? I am almost afraid to use it. Do you realize the danger you're in?
Really? Try me then.
See what I mean? Is he conscious? Uh-huh. And you say you can fight?
Harder. Harder. Much harder. If that is all you have to offer, how come you call yourself a gangster? Do they make these for men?
My favorite part of that is that Singh is such a buffoon. He's still fronting like he's this big bad guy. You ever seen a fist this big? Guy, did you not see how much security this guy had inside this insane asylum? Isn't there a reason why the main villains, the Axe Gang, is trying to get this guy out? And you have references with our other previous warriors saying that this guy is the most bad guy. And Singh is just completely oblivious to this whole thing.
Doesn't the Beast put himself in the cell? Because there's nobody that's as strong as him to fight, so he's just bored. It really is boredom, right?
Yeah, he says nobody's really earned the respect enough of him to even try to fight them. So he won't fight anybody because he'll just murder them. It's too easy. So the next part of that scene, he literally puts a gun to his head, fires the gun, and catches the bullet between his fingers, which just shows you this movie is off the wall. It's just so cool to see how confident he is and that he's now proven that this flip-flop character is truly the baddest amongst all of them.
Yeah, and I feel it's a great way for, Stephen Chow and the other screenwriters to set this up. I mean, typically when you're writing a screenplay, right, you like to have escalating action. And it's what a great way to establish this character that he has incredible power, but he literally can sit there cross-legged with flip-flops barely hanging on his feet and still show this amazing feat of skill.
Yeah, without worrying about the 50 people around him with guns pointed at him in any way, shape, or form. A big part of Sting's story is that he's obviously trying to be bad, and he at one point talks to his friend to tell him why he wants to be bad and tough.
What are you staring at, Four Eyes? Want me to smash your glasses? Hey, go to hell with refuge! I dare you to say that again.
You're really going to kill someone?
Of course I will. I'm going to start with Four Eyes here, and then the fat lady of Pigsty Alley and all her neighbors.
Yes, but their kung fu is unbeatable.
Unbeatable? You haven't seen me fight yet.
You know kung fu?
Huh. Didn't I tell you I once learned the technique of Buddha's palm?
Hey there, young man. Wait a minute. Whoa, amazing, amazing. Do you know you have a very special aura about you? Oh, you're still a child, but you have the bone structure and the chi flow of a kung fu genius. If your chi flow can be channeled, then you will be invincible. Remember the old saying, you cannot escape your destiny. The duty of upholding world peace and punishing evil will be yours.
Is it?
Here, the Buddhist Palm Manual of Training. It's priceless, but since this is fate, I can let you have it for $10.
You gave him all the money you had? Yes. I had been saving it so I could become a surgeon or a lawyer one day. But this seemed like a chance to save the world.
Seeing it remembers back in a time in his childhood when there was a group of bullies that really were terrorizing a young girl for her lollipop. And Singh essentially goes to stop them with his masterful Buddhist technique that he's going to protect this poor innocent girl who we later on find out is a mute girl who has probably been picked on her whole life. And so he goes to attack them with the Buddhist palm, which it is a fictitious attack method. And so he gets the absolute crap kicked out of him. And do you remember how he ends up in that scene?
Yep, he ends up face down in the dirt with the bullies peeing on him.
It's so sad.
I was like, man, this is very, very graphic.
Yeah, I was like, this is harsh, man. This poor kid.
Yeah, I mean, but it does a very good job of setting up the complex in saying where he is desperate to be the top man on the totem pole and have meaning.
He doesn't necessarily have the ability to be mean or evil because he is center core is actually a good and decent person, but he does not want to be that same kid that got the shit kicked out of him for trying to help others.
Yeah, he doesn't want to be humiliated again.
And pissed on, literally.
Yes, definitely not pissed on.
So I think that really speaks to his whole character arc that we are looking at later on, which he can't get out of his own way because he doesn't understand he is actually a good person. His chi is good. If he was playing Dungeons and Dragons, he'd be, I'm sure there's a name for it. He would be, his character arc would be on the good side of that. And he cannot actually physically do evil. Even when he tries to throw knives at a woman to kill her, he fails because in his inner core, he's good.
What is he, chaotic good? Is that what you would describe him?
Let's say chaotic good. I'm not.
I don't know. I think that's a D&D term.
It is.
Good job, Silvia.
It is now. All D&D fans write us in exactly what that character would be.
First, roll your D20. If you hit a natural 20, go ahead and buy a lottery ticket. And then write us a letter.
So yeah, that really kind of, is his character throughout. And you kind of understand as you get to see him throughout this movie, you can tell why he can't do evil. It's because he's just not evil. And even though he can't get out of his own way, eventually he may get out of his own way. And he's going to need something to beat the chi out of him. So the beast is now on a mission to kill the landlady and the landlord, and he goes to confront them at a casino that's either attached to the same building or it has to be attached because I think they actually do work their way back to the lair of the Axe Gang. And they have a sit down and they start talking. And I thought it was so beautifully cordial about whether or not they should fight and if they think that they're worthy and if they want to go. And they all agree and shake hands and say, okay, we're going to fight until somebody dies.
It really speaks to, the respect and admiration that these very skilled warriors have for each other. It almost reminds me of battles from previous centuries where there would be gentlemanship and you would hand in your sword to, surrender and all that type of gentlemanly behavior.
And to be honest, the beast is better than each one individually. And actually, he might be better than both of them together. As the fight progresses, we come back to that lion's roar again. And that lion's roar has very little effect on him whatsoever until she chops the top off of, I believe it's a death bell.
Yeah.
She chops the top off of it and makes it into a giant megaphone and blasts the hell out of the beast, which knocks him on his ass.
It was really at that point where he is telling the landlady that, okay, you defeated me. I give up, or I surrender. But he's got another trick up his sleeve.
The old switcheroo. He pulls out like a penknife with a flower, like a metal flower on it, and stabs them both.
Very beautifully well-crafted
Yeah,
flower.
it's gorgeous. That violent flower.
Stephen Chow was asked about the meaning of those flowers, and he said it looked like it would really hurt. Eventually, this entire scene, which we cannot do it justice because it's just a masterful barrage of different events that take place, but they wind up in a three-way headlock, and then we have to have our hero come in.
This whole film is just so hard to describe, especially, I mean, it might be easier if it wasn't so uniquely stylized, but trying to get this across on a medium like audio, a podcast, is so difficult. I really encourage any listeners who have not seen this movie to go out and see it. It is very unique.
Yes, and so 100%. So Singh comes in and he decides, because the beast is all tied up and being strangled by the landlord, and he is strangling the landlady, and he takes a giant leg of a table and smashes it over the beast's head, which was a tragic mistake because the beast basically grabs him and pummels him. A little, Kevin?
No, a lot. A lot, so much that his entire body ends up bandaged and on the precipice of death.
He's literally inside the floor, right? Hasn't he been beaten into the floor?
Yeah, he smashes his head into the ground, and it looks like a Roger Rabbit, right? His whole head is like stretched into the ground with him just beating it again and again. I don't believe there was no like splatter of blood coming up, which thank goodness, because that could get very gruesome very fast. But it had very much that Roger Rabbit feel to what was happening until the landlady. Does she do another lion's roar?
They somehow use like super speed, I think that it is, where they pick him up. They manage to grab him and bring him back to their place.
She distracts him.
So
She distracts him, I think, with the lion's roar through the megaphone, and then just enough time to pick up Singh and take him back to their lair and bandage him up into a cocoon very quickly, and he should definitely be dead.
This bandage is pretty much a cocoon. It's like a chrysalis is what we'll end up figuring out. But like you said, John, they're doing like it's very unique that they're doing the main character, who would be Singh. They're doing his arc extremely quickly. I mean, he's pretty much the same note for 80% of this film. And then we get to this scene where he tries to help out our main characters. It gets his ass handed to him. And then the landlord and landlady realize he has this secret magical power.
So lo and behold, that beating that he took and being wrapped up by the masters has literally beaten the chi out of him. And he now has released his inner chi, which has shown him that he no longer has to be a total douchebag. He can actually be a decent human being. And once he has literally kind of come as close to death as you can, he now has the ability to master all the bullshit Buddha hand stuff that he was taught way back when. And it turns out it's actually real.
Yeah, I think fairy tales and myths and legends have some element of truth, and come to find out these techniques, who most people think are fake, are actually real.
I think the lion's roar and the Buddhist palm are supposed to be, fiction, but here we see their power. The magic becomes a reality.
It's very hard to remember the name of the palm technique, because I always think of the 5-finger palm technique from Kill Bill.
The book is called Buddhist palm,
Yes,
right?
the Buddhist palm technique. And then Kill Bill, it's the 5-finger palm technique.
The next scene to me comes straight out of The Matrix.
Yeah.
Where the entire Axe gang has showed up to come after Singh, and I still love the very beginning of it, where they all show up to one door and they're sitting right there outside the door, and Singh just walks out of another door.
Yeah, we all know it's going to be the big showdown, but let's just start it off with a joke.
Yep.
And what is Singh wearing?
He's basically channeling Bruce Lee there, because we got that white shirt, got the black pants, we got Enter the Dragon. I think he wore that exact outfit.
Yeah, anybody that thinks that Bruce Lee was not heavily in this movie has never seen a Bruce Lee film in their life, because there are many other references to Bruce Lee throughout this whole film, but this is the powerful one where he is now the Jedi master, if you will, and he's going to take on this entire group of tall-hatted soldiers. The battle enrages. I can't even describe it, but their one technique that I loved to see was the frog technique.
Yeah.
Which is an homage to a technique referenced in or used in a other kung fu film.
Actually, not only one kung fu film, many kung fu films have used this technique. all with just as ridiculous of a look, and yet awesome, just beyond awesome.
I did not know what to make of this the first viewing. I was like, what the fuck is happening right now? The scene's been so great, and then they throw in this bullfrog.
I like the whole thing where one of his pant legs rips as he's becoming sort of the frog.
He's got big calves.
Got big frog calves.
His whole face expands like a...
Yeah, no, I mean, and he does that little...
It would seem like it wouldn't be a really good thing because you croaked right before you attacked, so you'd know right when to jump, right? You'd say, you're a croak, I'm getting out of the way.
It's so bizarre. I love it.
And man, this is just right out of a Superman movie or right out of any superhero movie where buildings are exploding and people are getting shot millions of miles into the air and everybody is battling it out. This thing, rises into the air, smashes him with the Buddhist palm, absolutely defeats the beast. And the beast, he has met his own master. He cannot believe it. And he's like, go ahead and just kill me because I'm pretty much done. And Sting offers to train him and teach him the way of the Buddhist palm. Wow.
And right before that moment, though, right, the beast does that one thing where he tries to psych him out. He says, "No, I'm done. Yes, you beat me." But he pulls out that violent flower.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that. Yeah.
And then that magical moment where this is where Sing turns the violence into a form of beauty and something delicate and precious and turns it into an actual flower that starts to float away. And the beast is essentially like, oh my God, I bow down to you. I want to learn this technique. And, it's this thing of technique, of meditation, of serenity, not violence to destroy. It's kind of beautiful.
The movie at that point kind of wraps up with the characters all opening a candy store. That's a funny ending, but it's something very kind and nice where the mute girl has now joined forces with Sting and his best friend to offer kindness to all the children in town.
Yay, applause.
Applause. Yes, a major epic film. Silvia, do you remember it better or worse? Did it improve with age?
With my rewatch, and I've watched it now more recently twice, and I do enjoy it a lot more. I think being a little bit older than when I originally saw it, and then really understanding a lot of the references that are made and the sort of the homages that are made in this film. I think it's a beautiful love letter to, I think, the history of China and Kung Fu films. And I think that Pigsty Alley is actually even based on a real place. I know that the director mentions that it was very similar to his upbringing, but there is like a real place that apparently looks just like Pigsty Alley. And I think it has a very similar name too, if I recall.
Yes, it is. And they have torn it down since then, but you're correct.
Yeah. It got condemned, but I was like, okay, so it is actually really, the nostalgia part of that is actually quite beautiful. And then you see this sort of community coming together, working together, and you have the masters that come to essentially defend their family and friends and neighbors. I enjoyed it a lot more. I actually really enjoyed also how kind of crappy the CGI was. It sort of lends to the kind of comedic level, the sort of cartoonish idea of sort of that Looney Tunes style.
Hey, Kevin, your thoughts?
Yeah, I agree with Silvia. I think this is definitely a really beautiful love letter to cinema, and specifically, well, I won't even say specifically, Asian cinema, because there's so many English references in this. But not only does the story hold up, I feel like it's a very timeless story, one that we may have seen before in many different forms, but having so many clever homages, I feel like it gives all of those references such new life. And also, too, like Silvia said, as far as the special effects, I feel like, some of the campy special effects were done so well in that style of being campy that they're great. And then also the fight between the musicians and our heroes is fantastic. It looks amazing, and it's not campy whatsoever. I think they did a great job, especially with the $20 million budget they had. And I think this holds up still 20 plus years later.
I will agree, mind you, I didn't watch it 100 years ago. I only watched it about maybe 5-6 years ago. There are definitely some, I don't want to call them problematic, but there are definitely some phrases and words that are said in this film that are not considered politically correct, I would say. They definitely do some characterizations that are a little bit off-putting. but, and I want to say, yeah, it's no problem, but yeah, it's no problem. They're not a focus of the piece in any way. They kind of just occur, and they're there to, I think, give you the feel of the location, of the people. Nobody is supposed to be perfect. I felt, once you make a Looney Tune movie, I'm not sure if it ever would go out of style.
Yeah. And I do think you always have to think about when these films come out. It's just the times are very different. Like, I agree with you, John, like definitely some terminology is like very problematic today. But at the time, it was kind of just normal conversation probably for most cultures. And you have to always put that in perspective, because I know that's always the challenge with, discussing older films. You're like, the time and place that the films, were made.
Absolutely. I always think of Tarantino always gets a lot of flack from critics and other filmmakers for his excessive use of some slurs. But, some of the defense of that is, would the characters in that time period speak like that? And I feel like this is the 1940s. Absolutely. It definitely fits to the time period. So I feel like it's very, very true to the time.
Yeah.
So here at Is It Streaming, we might not agree on everything, but we do choose one cast member or crew member that we all agree that should be recognized for their work on each film. This week, we are choosing to spotlight the work of the choreographer Yun Woo Ping, who did just amazing work in this film. Did you guys like the choreography in these fights?
Yeah, I think the choreography is definitely a standout in this film.
Yeah, for sure.
So he has worked on a lot of different films. He worked on Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon. He worked on Kung Fu Hustle, obviously. He also was working on The Matrix. He was brought in for consulting on that. The Grandmaster Fearless. He's done dozens and dozens of different movies. So what was your favorite scene in this movie, Kevin, for choreography?
I would say it has to be the musician battle by far, with the swords and knives that are coming out of the instruments, and the way that they show the perception of the characters, first not seeing it, then seeing it. And then we really see our two of our three masters, the village masters, really get to just shine with all of their skills. It's a really beautiful scene. And I think it's probably one of the best fight scenes in all of cinema.
Beautiful part of that scene, too, is that each master has very distinct different styles. And he masters showing the masters in each one of those styles and how they're good and bad. And he just does a great job of blending all those styles together.
I'm going to agree with Kevin. That's my favorite. That fight scene is amazing because it is this combination of this like sort of magical concept of the instruments transforming into weapons. Watching that is, I mean, it's pretty exhilarating.
All right, so our final reviews of this movie. I feel like most of us did not like this movie. Let's start with you, Kevin.
Well, honestly, John, as I said from the beginning of this, I had a complete 180. I did not enjoy my first watch of this film. Obviously, the choreography is great. The cinematography is great. It had humor in there, but I was kind of like, what the fuck is happening in this film? I had no clue to any of the references. I'm not a huge kung fu person. I like Kill Bill. I like Big Trouble in Little China. I'm by no means a connoisseur of Asian martial arts films. But you know what? After doing some research, I really loved the second viewing of this film. And, I went from the first viewing of saying, I am never going to watch this film ever again, and to being like, wow, this is a fantastic film. I will watch this at every opportunity I get. And you know what? I think it's one of those things where, is it the responsibility of the viewer to have to know some of the behind the scenes things or know some of the references? And typically I would say no. That should not be the case. It should be great on the first viewing. But I think with this being a foreign film, it is the responsibility of the viewer to do some work and to get knowledgeable about this, because there's such a beautiful world of cinema outside of English media. And I really think that the beauty of seeing all of these homages to not only English films, but so many Asian films, I think it's a very beautiful and masterful way to make a film. And my rating would be 7.7.
7.7, okay. Silvia, you are next up.
I kind of had a similar reaction to Kevin. Like my first rewatch, the most recent rewatch, I was like, I don't know. I kind of get what's going on, but it's like a lot. It was hard for me to get into it. And like Kevin, I'm not very familiar with Kung Fu films, but I do deep dives all the time when I watch movies, and I like want to understand everything. And I'm like, you know what? I'm going to learn a little bit more about this. I know that there's a lot to this film. I also know that there's a total cult following. People love Kung Fu Hustle. And And I was like, okay, maybe there's just like something I'm missing. And doing the research, understanding the references to the other Kung Fu films, other just like Asian cinema. And then, found it really hilarious when I saw a lot of the references to some of the American films and how they used them. I just loved it even more. It is incredibly clever. The cinematography, the choreography is just delightful. And honestly, like the characters are super fun. So I give this about like a 7.8.
Hey, very respectful. I'm going to give you my original viewing. I did not have any context of it. I'm going to also say, not a huge Kung Fu karate watching person. I mean, I've seen many, but I would say it's not like, oh, I got to watch a good karate movie this week. My first watch of this movie, though, it blew me away. Obviously, I was strapped down to a chair and I had to kind of hold still, and it really made me jump. So I didn't really need any additional context. I do think you run into that interesting point where they do the Roadrunner in the movie, where you're either all in or you're not. And if you're all in, you just go for the ride. And it's just a fantastic ride. The story's tight. It moves so fast from scene to scene. The choreography never gets like, oh, we have to sit through another long fight. It has so many minute details that you can watch this time after time and pick up more and more every scene. And just knowing that back context to it is just phenomenal movie to me. I'm going to give it a 9.5. That's how much I love this movie. I really like it. So, surprised anybody?
Yeah, I mean, wow. Well, I mean, I could tell you like this film a lot. 9.5 is, wow.
Yes, it is up there for me.
I am going to call you on something, John. You say you don't have to see movies, but you've called me on video calls wearing your karate outfit saying, oh, it's Thursday night, we're watching the brand new Karate Kid movie. So I am going to call you out on that one.
Well, I mean, Karate Kid's a classic Chinese thriller, right? So
yes.
The Miyagi story. So that is our show. Thank you all for listening. I hope you had some fun with us. Please do share this episode with a friend and drop us a rating on Apple Podcasts. And we will be back next week for another deep dive of the movie The Green Mile.
You've been listening to the Is It Streaming podcast. If you enjoyed what you heard, like and subscribe on your podcast channel of choice. Be sure to leave a review worthy of Siskel and Ebert and share episodes with your friends, family, and the cinephiles in your life. Is It Streaming is part of the Writer's Bone podcast network, founded by yours truly, Daniel Ford. In addition to our flagship show, Writer's Bone, the network features Film Freaks Forever, As Told To, the Ghostwriting podcast, The Thoughtful Bro, and the Movie Loft podcast. Sensing a theme? Writing and storytelling are in our DNA. Go to writersbone.com to learn more. Once again, thanks for listening. See you next time.